Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel where we cover all things crypto and crypto mining. So today's video is going to be about the Helium network. It's going to be about my experiences with it, how the mining has been going, and some of the future 5G and Helium Mobile updates. So if it's something you're interested in, check it out. All right, guys, so let's start out. Let's talk about Helium and what it is. So, Helium is a global distributed network of hotspots that create public, long range wireless coverage for LoRaWAN enabled IoT devices. So, essentially, it's a decentralized network for LoRaWAN. So, when it says IoT devices, it's Internet of Things devices. Typically, these are like low power, low data devices and sensors. On the Helium website, they got a couple examples. They have a list of different manufacturers and what they make. Bosch has a little wireless smart parking sensor. They have various different companies working on different little things. Again, these are all like low power, low data. Here's another manufacturer. This one has a wireless soil moisture and temperature sensor. So far, these devices, a lot of use cases for them, right? But they haven't really come up with anything that's like super profitable. So these things do have use case, but again, they haven't really found a good way to like actually monetize it. Could be something that happens in the future. I think more than likely it'll something that'll coincide well with the 5G upgrades and things that are coming in the future. And I think that's what it's mainly going to be used for. So overall, let's talk about now the Helium Explorer, which is pretty cool if you haven't checked this thing out. So let's go to explorer.helium.com and you're actually able to check out the entire network and its coverage, right? So here we have a map of the US. All these little green areas are all the individual coverage for the IoT devices, so the Helium miners. As you zoom in, you can zoom into any area. You can actually see each individual hex. Each individual hex will have X amount of miners. That's what all these like larger numbers mean. You can literally click on any one and you can go in and actually check out each individual miner. You can click on that miner. You can see their setup. You can see what brand they have, what type of antenna they have, how high it's mounted, and like you can see every individual connection that it makes, which is pretty cool. Mainly what this is used for is so you can really check out if your area is going to be profitable, right? So if you're in an area that's overpopulated, probably not going to be something for you. But if you're in an area that's up and coming, like over here is kind of looking kind of sparse, if you're able to set up, if your area just happens to be right here, you'd be probably in a pretty good location where you're providing more coverage, you're not going to be oversaturated, and if your setup is good, you might be able to get some good earnings. But again, this is a good tool if you're thinking about doing it because this will give you a good idea of what the coverage is like. So like again, this area is good, but if you're like in NYC, it's crazy saturation. People's rewards are crazy low. Not something you really want to probably get into. All right, so let's talk about my journey with Helium. So I pre-ordered back in April of 21. I initially ordered a what was it, a Nebra, and a Syncrobit. So I ordered those two guys. A lot of delays, as most of you guys know. So luckily, the week I got in, I actually made it in time, so my order was able to get fulfilled. So I didn't get it until I think it was about mid-September, but I did get both of them fulfilled. They both made it here. I actually didn't end up using either one though because there wasn't much information as far as like reliability or like overall reviews of them. The few that were available weren't too hot, so I kind of decided that I was going to go with a different brand. So essentially, was trying to wait to see if I can get one at MSRP, and I ended up getting lucky. About a month later, sometime I think it was either late September, early October, is when the Minted came out, right? So Minted was essentially like a rebranded rack, and they came out, they dropped. Nobody really paid much attention to it, and I got lucky. I was able to get one actually with no problems. They were actually up on the website for a couple hours on that first drop. So I got that one. Decided to go with theirs because theirs is essentially again just a rebranded rack, so which was had overall pretty good reviews. So went with them, ended up selling the other two that I had. With the profit I made from there, it covered the cost of that minted miner as well as the antenna that I ended up getting, the cabling, the adapters, the fittings, and all that, so I can get my setup going. I ended up going with the Rockland brand antenna, which was I ended up doing a 8 dBi, which a lot of people said initially that would probably overshoot my area, but I haven't had any issues with it. I've been able to connect with, other guys in my hex even, like literally down the road, and I've had zero issues with it. Matter of fact, it's been pretty good. Overall, like a quick little review of that unit, that minted miner. Haven't really had any issues with it. It's been almost exactly a year now. The only issues I had were there was a while back, maybe like 4 or 5 months, where we were having issues with the SD cards. So I did have to replace it twice. Don't really know what was causing it, but after that second fix, it fixed it all the way. Haven't had any issues since then. It's very low maintenance. Like, I think I just randomly reset it because it just feels like it needs to be reset every once in a while, but haven't had any issues aside from that. So let's talk a little bit about the Helium 5G. So far, it launched officially. The hardware's been coming out, but officially, people were able to begin earning those mobile tokens back on August 12th. That was like the genesis. So for those of you who had your setup completed, meaning you had a 5G gateway, a 5G radio, and you were completely set up, you started earning those mobile tokens for just having it up and running, which is nice. So it started August 12th. I don't think there's been an exact end date yet. They just said end of summer, and most people were saying about 100 days, so should be coming up pretty soon. But those of you who did get in, you've been earning those mobile tokens. I've seen people's wallets earning in like the millions. So far it seems pretty good, right? But realistically, we don't know what that conversion rate is yet. So yes, all these tokens sound great, but we don't know what the conversion rate is to be able to convert those mobile tokens into actual HNT, which you can then sell. So that's really the gauge of how profitable it's going to be, and we don't really know yet. So until that comes out, it's kind of a risk, because this hardware is relatively expensive. The only radios or the only gateways that are supported are this Freedom Fi, and then I think Bobcat came out with theirs. It's like the Bobber 500, I believe. They both have about the same MSRP. They're both $1,000, give or take, and then these outdoor radios or antennas are about these specifically. These buy cells are 1,500. There is an indoor one as well. I think that one's $9.99 from Freedom Fi. But again, that's really only going to be useful in like maybe a business setting, something of that sort. I mean, technically, right now you'd be earning though, right? Because just for having it up. But as soon as proof of coverage starts, we don't really know what what your range is going to be. So ideally, you'd end up with these, or they have even higher powered ones that are. Oh, here we go down here. This guy is even more expensive. I think they're like $4,500. But this is a much more realistic use case, especially if you're nearby an area that can take advantage of it. Like I'm a block away from a 2,000 kid high school. So me, it might be something I look into eventually one day. But what's turning me off is just the cost of the hardware and just not knowing what the profitability really is going to be. With Minted specifically, they're the only one so far that's going to have an option to upgrade your existing miner, right? So that can soften some of the load as far as that goes. It's going to be, here's a quick picture of it. They released this back at the end of June. There hasn't really been many updates on it, but theoretically it's supposed to plug into a USB port. It's going to be this adapter portion here, and that's how you're going to be able to connect that antenna or radio to it so you can start earning 5G. If this would have released in time and it would have been at a good price, let's say it's like 100, $200, something like that, I probably would have tried to jump in to make it in time for this Genesis. But no information came out because, I mean, if it ends up being expensive, then it's not going to be worth it, right? If this thing is like $600, then might as well spend another $300 and get a brand new gateway instead of using the one I've been using for a year already. But we'll see how this all ends up going. So let's touch on the Helium Mobile now. So this was the big announcement that came out recently. They're going to be a mobile provider, right? And specifically, the huge announcement was with T-Mobile. So essentially, the way it's going to work is they're going to be a MVNO, and a good way to, or easy way to think about it is kind of like the way Mint Mobile works. Mint Mobile is kind of its own wireless provider, but realistically, it uses the T-Mobile network. So realistically, it's T-Mobile, but it's under that branding. And this is going to be very similar to that. This technically, again, is going to be its own mobile network, but it's going to use T-Mobile as the backup. So it is supposed to prioritize if you have Helium infrastructure nearby, or if you currently have infrastructure in your house, like if you have your own 5G setup, it should prioritize that. But if you don't have coverage, it's going to use that T-Mobile network. So sounds cool, right? But we just don't have much info on it. The biggest thing is this, which still hasn't been announced, is the price. This is going to be the big draw if it's a good deal. This is what will bring people in who are maybe outside of crypto or outside of Helium if it's a cheap setup, which is what I'm thinking they're going to do. I would think that they're going to try to like undercut all the competition in order to get more people on the network. The only thing that has been announced is this 1 gig plan that's going to be $5 a month. Assuming it's going to be for like devices, I would think, because 1 gig isn't much use right now. But this price sounds good. So, but again, we got to wait for this right here. Until we get more information here, this will give us a bigger idea of how big it could possibly be. The only thing they've really announced is that we are supposed to be able to earn some kind of mobile tokens if you're on the network. They had an AMA the other day saying that one way to earn those mobile tokens is that there's going to be a way to provide, information of the network. And that's going to be a way to earn those tokens. So I'm assuming it's going to be like maybe like signal strength, if you're actually on the Helium network, what that's like, what the status is like, how the coverage is around you, things of that sort. I think it's going to give like just, overall conditions of that network. So by providing that information, you're going to be able to earn mobile tokens. I don't know if they have any other plans for that. Maybe depending on what plan you get, you may be able to earn more tokens. We don't really know, but we should be getting news soon though. This is supposed to release Q1 of 2023, which is realistically just a few months away. I think that Solana phone is actually supposed to come out around in this time frame as well. There may be some kind of integration or some kind of benefit there as Helium is moving to that Solana network now. But only time will tell from this point. But again, it is supposed to launch Q1 2023, so we'll keep our eyes open. But again, once they release this is going to be a big factor. So now let's talk about my earnings so far from my personal hotspot. So you can see the monthly rewards on the right. You could see the beginning back in October. That was like half a month, so I only earned 5. Then come November, I was able to earn 12, then 11, then 9. I'm sure you can see this downtrend that happened, and the reason for this initial downtrend was just the amount of miners coming online, right? People's orders were finally getting fulfilled. So as more miners came online, the rewards went down because it's getting split amongst pretty much everybody. Down to this low over here, right? And then it started gradually going up a little bit. We're up at 5, 7, 6. Ultimately, recently though, it's been pretty good. You can see over here on the left, this is a recent snapshot of what's going on right now. So my previous 30 days, I'm at 10, which is a big upgrade. This is back from when I was earning back over here. What specifically is causing that? Not too sure. I've heard a lot of people talking about the deny list increasing, meaning people who have been like gaming or spoofing the system are finally getting banned and they're getting cut out of the network. That could have something to it. Could be the seasonal thing. Not really too sure, but the big thing is that this part has been going up, which is nice. I will gladly take it. You can see my all-time earnings. So this is almost exactly a year, and it's been 93 tokens, which has been pretty good, right? Except for when you start considering the price action, right? So because of the crash, we're down to, it's about 414 right now from a peak of where we have $52 back in November. So quite a drop. But again, this is pretty much every crypto project. Everybody's down this much. Whether or not we get back up to this point, we don't know. Only time will tell, right? But I personally am overall on the project as a whole, I am bullish on it. Again, none of this is financial advice, nothing like that. Just giving you my personal opinions of it. Now, would I recommend somebody freshly getting into it? On the IoT side, meaning the regular standard helium miners, if you haven't bought any hardware, me personally, I probably wouldn't do it. Mainly because the fact that the miner is going to cost you anywhere from $200 to $300. You're going to spend money on the outdoor antenna, the cabling, the setup, getting a mast, all that stuff. You're going to be in it about $300-400. And the token right now is $4. So, for example, I've earned almost, let's say, 100 tokens during this 12 months. It'd be $400. It's about what I would be putting into it. I'm gonna stay with it. I made a good amount of money on it. Luckily, I ended up selling sometime in January. I sold all the tokens I had accrued at that point at about 40 something. So I made a pretty good little profit then. I'm gonna stick with it because again, my area is actually a good area for it. My earnings are fairly consistent. It's not a whole lot now in USD value, but in token wise, it's doing pretty well. Me personally, I think it's gonna go back up. Maybe not to this point, but I think eventually by the next bull run, it'll be up there. I have more of a hodl mindset. I'm going to be holding all of my tokens from here on out. Probably will be jumping into this 5G venture eventually once more information comes out, once once the hardware price decreases, if they do, we'll see, or if Minted releases this adapter so I can get in. But overall, I personally, again, if you've never invested any cents into hardware, it's hard to recommend anybody to jump in because of that. For those of you that are in, if you're in a good area, you optimize your setup, meaning you have like an outdoor antenna, chances are you might be all right just sticking with it and just holding through it, just depending on what your area is looking like, if it looks like it is going to get oversaturated, or if you decide to jump into this 5G thing. But there's just so many factors, right? But again, me personally, I think it's going to go up. We have a helium halving coming in August, and then another one 2 years from that. Their halving works every 2 years. So this one will be in August, and then the next one will be potentially right in the peak of the next bull run. So again, me personally, I'm going to be holding till then. We'll see if we jump into this 5G thing. It kind of just depends on this Helium Mobile, how that turns out, and if any other manufacturers come up or if the prices come down. And again, the biggest factor though is how much the conversion rate is going to be for these mobile tokens, right? So we're going to see if these guys who invested early, if it's going to pay off or if it's so-so, and we'll go from there. All right, guys. Well, hopefully you found some value in this video. You learned something, you got some input out of it. Please, if you like the content, subscribe, comment, like the video. Let's get some traction on it. But thanks for watching. Again, hopefully you got something out of it. And I'm out.